Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to the True North Business Intensive, a leader's guide to extraordinary growth and impact. Hey, I am just thrilled that you're back here because this is such an important subject, particularly the way our life is going right now, is to enjoy change. Can you imagine that? Enjoy change. And so when I talk about enjoy change, I've already shared this with you, is when you change what you think, you change who you are, and you change what you do. And I think you probably already know this because we've all been experiencing it. The only thing constant in this world is what? Change. Things are constantly changing. And not only are things constantly changing, but they are also changing at an accelerating rate. And this is the reason why we feel so often that no one's safe anymore. And it's all changing fast. You know, how we earn, learn, live, get information, govern, improve, and succeed. And to succeed, it's all changing fast. So let's go into our breakout rooms and just discuss just in 2 minutes, just one subject is why don't we like change? Why we don't like change. Okay, if we can, Heather, you want to get us a start and give us one idea y'all came up with?
We're taking turns on who's leading, so Jed will be doing ours.
Okay, all right, Jed.
Sharing the fun there, Bobby.
All right.
We're trying to do some of that in the business and on the business, all wrapping it all together with sharing the leadership.
Oh, that's nice.
So a couple of things we saw about why people are hesitant for change, fear of the unknown. Most people don't like admitting when they're wrong or that they're not doing something right enough. And when you change something, you're doing one of those two things, saying you could do something better or you haven't been doing something right. So, not liking admitting when you're wrong. And also, we're creatures of comfort. We like doing the thing we've always done. And we don't like getting uncomfortable usually by acquiring new skills or trying a new challenge.
Yeah, well, those are very, man, those are excellent. And let's go to the next group. Who's leading that group this time?
Well, this will be my last time leading. We're going to copycat the other group.
Okay.
So this is Denise, and something that was said that kind of encapsulated everything we were saying was change can be disruptive, and it can make us inefficient for a season. We also talked about how it can drain us of just our energy. We have to have a heightened focus, something new to learn. Sometimes those things, especially like what we've lived this last year, can hit a level of emotional or physical exhaustion from addressing and facing that. It can also be expensive. So that's it for us. We also said what the other group said.
Okay. Anything else, Jed?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I know several of y'all by where you're located here in Texas. If you're like where I am, y'all probably have been experiencing the snow and, we've had rolling blackouts where I live, and that's been a challenge. I have a tankless water heater, and the water line broke last night late, and so man, I had to deal with that, and it flooded the master bedroom closet, and boy, it just been a mess. So anyway, and because of that, we haven't been, we've been without hot water since all this snow hit. So, so it's like, man, I better practice what I'm preaching here is enjoy change, enjoy change. So how the question comes is, how do you deal with hyper change? I mean, change is occurring at warp speed, just all over the place around us. And, but let's look at here, this change curve here. There's 4 stages. And during change transition, every employee in an organization are looking at 2 variables here. One is on the horizontal axis, you got the time it takes you to get over each change and become productive in the new way. And the second is the vertical axis. And this is dealing with and y'all kind of touched on it, about your self-esteem, your ability to cope, your productivity. And with every change we are asked to make, every human goes through these 4 stages in dealing with change. And now we have the basic curve and that we're looking at how to diagnose where people at each stage is in the transition. And that's what this next chart is. Just to give you some clues, when you're going through change in your organization, or if you've been experiencing this because of health or economic reasons, or like here in Texas and some other parts of the country about the snow, the weather that's recently come through. The first is the shock and denial stage. And here's some clues: withdrawal, numbness, avoidance. You're seeking information, you're seeking psychological safety. There's a loss of energy. And then you go through this next stage, which is resistance. You challenge authority, you become moody, physically sick, volatile, guilty sometimes, you're apathetic, you're disinterested, your participation dwindles, and you start what? Complaining. Then you finally get to the point of searching, and you're still frustrated and you're seeking answers, and you do, like you already mentioned, there is a fear of failure. And finally, there's an acceptance that change is real. Change is real. And then you finally get to the solution part, and that is you're seeking own answers, taking control, testing and determining boundaries, and productivity increases. However, this is something that often happens, is that, even though everyone goes through these 4 stages, sometimes, well, let me just say this. Sometimes people revert back because of certain things that happen. If you're still, if you're in the, you're maybe getting close to, you're in the, you come across some additional unexpected information that may cause someone to recycle through the shock and denial. Or let's say you're in the searching, but unmet expectations or change in plans may cause someone to recycle through the anger and the resistance. And then also, it also happens when you're at the solution stage, but all of a sudden you get to some difficulties, some challenges, some roadblocks in implementation may cause someone to recycle through resistance and searching. The question is, where are you? Where are you today when you're with all of the changes that are going on, particularly in everybody's life? But one thing that's interesting is that not everyone experiences the stages at the same time. And what I have learned in our organization, that the leadership team is involved in the change that's taking place in our organization early on before everyone else. And so they're much further along in the overall curve of change. Then you have the managers or supervisors. As they become informed, they move through the curve. And what happens a lot of times, the people on the front line, because they haven't been engaged, is by the time they are informed, the company leaders are already at perhaps maybe the solution stage, and they can become impatient with employees who are not where they are. But it's very important that we understand not everyone will experience the stages at the same time. So how do you enjoy change when change is occurring at warp speed? So in a high-speed world of change, success can be greater than you dreamed and very gratifying. That almost seems impossible as you're going through those stages. But just think about this. And I'm going to go through some examples here that there can be no progress without change. And so let's see what progress has done to change our own personal lives. Here's some. Did you today ride to work on a horse? Did you share a ride with others in a horse-drawn carriage? Did you today turn out a kerosene lamp when you went to bed last night and relit it when you woke up? Did you cook your breakfast on a wood-burning stove? Nope. Did you get water for coffee or tea from a well? Did you use an outhouse in the last 24 hours? Not me. I may have to, but not me right now. But did you today send someone a message by carrier pigeon this year? Did you use a typewriter? Have you ever seen one of these in a while? A typewriter and 3 pieces of carbon paper to make 4 copies of something. Did you wash your clothes in the backyard with a tub and a washboard? Did you drive to work in the same car your parents drove you around when you were a kid? You may have, but not me. So did you have your milk delivered by a milkman, and did you put the milk in your, the ice box, not a refrigerator, but an ice box? So, however, most people change. This is what I've found. Most people change just enough to get away from their problems, not solve them. Here's another. Most people want to change their circumstances to improve their lives instead of changing, guess who? Themselves to improve their circumstances. And third is do the same thing in the same way and expect different results. What is that? That's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expect the results to be different. So I love this quote here, is that everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. So here's a couple more of what most people are willing to change, not because they see the light, but because they feel what? They feel the heat. And here's another. Most people are unwilling to pay the immediate price of change. Therefore, they do not change and pay what? The ultimate price. And finally here is see change as hurtful, not that must be done, instead of helpful thing that should be done. Here's another great quote from Max Dupree. He said, we cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. So let's talk about here about every leader can enjoy change by thinking for a change. Now, some of this will be a little bit of review, but I'm going to be sharing some more new information here. And again, enjoy change is when you change what you think, you change who you are, and you change what you do. And when you change what you think, you change your beliefs, because now you are aware and understand why. That's a key word. Why you need to change what you think. And however, but the problem is only a few people control their thinking, and therefore they fail to control their lives. And really what we're talking about here, they're really out of shape mentally. Finally, we become outside what we believe on the inside, who we are, and we change what we do, our behavior, when we enjoy change. But so let me use that fruit tree analogy again, but it just in a different way. It's got a different twist here. Is that the mind is dealing with the roots. And, I already mentioned about, the farmer, when he plants the fruit tree, he spends a great bit of time and effort by faith to prepare and cultivate the soil. And the roots of the fruit tree, represents our mind, where everything begins with a thought. Everything begins with a thought. And so if we nurture our minds and guard it from destructive inputs, we improve our thinking. Now, when we're talking about the heart, this is the farmer by faith, spend years of watering and feeding the roots of the fruit tree, and a strong, sturdy tree trunk develops where all the nutrients are flowing through from the roots to the branches and the leaves. And a sound mind leads to a healthy heart. And a healthy heart, we're talking about a heart condition here. Your heart condition is our tree trunk, which improves our overall well-being. You're talking about your character here, and guides us to treat people with care and respect, allowing our leadership and influence to grow. Our trunk is strengthened by applying, specific life and leadership principles that touch not only our heart, but the hearts of the people around us, like our family, our friends. But the neat thing about this, like I was talking about, just like I mentioned about culture, in the workplace, is the fruit and not the goal. When your mind and heart are in the right conditions, it produces a will inside of you, a desire inside of you. And that's what happens after, 2, 5, 6, or 8 of years of watering, cultivating, pruning. The farmer by faith grows a healthy tree, which in turn produces this beautiful, delicious fruit as a result of the farmer's labor. And so our mind and our heart combine to form our will, creating this deep, deep desire to grow and thrive, which produces exponential results and lasting success. And you've heard this before, where there is a will, there is a way. And it's the same thing about the farmer. When he takes this beautiful fruit, he goes to the market because he feels like this desire inside of, he's got to do something with it. He's not going to just sit there and just look at this beautiful fruit. He's going to do something with it. And that's what happens in our own personal lives, in our family lives, in our work life, is that we become very productive, very the outcomes of all of that is very, very strong. Keep this in mind. Going back, that everything begins a thought. And Paul in the Bible, when he was writing to the Philippians, he said, talking about your thought life here, he's talking about whatever you think, is that whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, what does he say? Think about these things. So it comes back to this simple thought here, is that thinking for a change is what you think will change what you believe, and that change who you are. And that eventually creates this will, this desire inside of you. Who you are is your heart condition. What you think is your mind. So your heart and mind, it produces this desire, this will within you that you want to do something with that. My wife and I have 3 sons. They're all, adults now, and they have their own family. In fact, we just got our 9th grandson, our 9th grandchild, who was a grandson just recently. But I remember holding hands with them as we crossed the street when they were little boys, And from an early age, our boys have heard me talk about doing everything they can to protect their minds. They probably got sick of it, but I would say to them, your mind is like a computer. And this is kind of this may date me, but it's kind of an old term. We used to say garbage in is garbage out. And so you want to protect what your eyes see and what your ears hear. And those boys knew that I was going to ask them regularly, particularly as, they prepared to go off to college. And I would ask them these types of questions is, what kind of music are you listening to? What kind of movies do you plan to see? What TV shows are you watching? What videos are you observing? What websites are you visiting? What magazines, books, social media are you reading? What video games are you playing? What language do you and your friends use? And what jokes do you tell? I tell you what, that really digs inside of people. And especially, it was my purpose to keep challenging them to protect their eyes, what their eyes see and what their ears hear. And I would share with them that when you consistently, Heather, I think you were the one that brought up about consistency, if I remember, but if you consistently allow enough garbage to come into your mind, you will eventually begin to live out that same garbage. Y'all mentioned early on when we were talking about culture, workplace culture is living out your culture, results in addiction and consequences. And I would always continue to challenge them on the other hand, when you more consistently protect what your eye sees and what your ears hear, you will live out a life with growth, blessings, and success. And the same is true for all of us. Protecting our minds is the first step of making principled decisions. So, what are the benefits of change by enjoying change? Well, one thing that would happen is you manage the change versus the change managing you. It prevents your team at the workplace. It prevents your team the fast track to mediocrity and to get left behind in the marketplace. When you're open to change, it prevents your products and services becoming, extensive with defects and delivery issues and pricing problems. Here's three more. When you enjoy change, think of it as a wonderful gift that unlocks the doors to growth, excitement in your organization. Because I saw it, because people it was such enjoying change in our organization, and it was just part of our culture so deeply that they actually enjoyed it and sought out making good quality improvements in our organization. This is one reason why we shut down our company this was another time where we shut down for a half a day, and we talked about enjoying change. And we always had fun. It was a fun time, but we also learned something about ourselves going through that process. And here's a fifth one here is it's an opportunity for you to inspire your people by assuring, even though they are on a new path, it is the right path for the right reasons. And the last one here is to produce employees eager to give new innovative ideas that delights customers. Now, I use that term delights customers because for us inside our organization, delighting the customer was more than just satisfying. You probably know what dissatisfied customers are, but it's more than satisfying. To us, delighting the customer was exceeding, providing us a service. For us, it was providing an experience that exceeds expectations. We call it the Triple E experience for a customer who receive great value for their money. So here's a key question here is what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I think y'all already touched on that. If you weren't afraid, what would you do? You would probably do things different if you were not afraid, because fear, I have found that, daily, we make choices. Moment by moment, we make choices, and our choices make us. And there's basically two choices. One choice is it's driven by fear, or the other one is empowered by faith. And the one driven by fear, it's usually part of the fear is a self-centeredness. It's a short-term gain. And the one that is empowered by faith is it's usually a long-term sacrifice, willing to do that and see that sacrifice as an investment. It's kind of comes down to something we already touched on, is that do you want to pay now and play later, or do you want to play now and pay later? And I find most people want to play now and think that they won't have to pay later, but they will. And but I don't know how to explain it, but ever since I was a little boy, I was always willing to do the sacrifice and pay now so I could play later. And that's just been my life. And but you know what's fascinating? When you play now and you pay later, you end up becoming addicted to that play, and it creates negative consequences eventually for you. But when you are empowered by faith and you make the short-term sacrifices for the long-term gain, you'll find success in your life, and growth and success. So what I, you know, we're finishing fairly quickly here, is that again, as an action item, think about a couple of things that you would like to write down, that you would like to act on, or either put an asterisk by one or two things.